Hey everyone, Spencer Hawes here with nichepursuits.com and welcome back to the podcast. Today I've got a great interview with two people that are experts at link building. And so if you are trying to get links to your affiliate website, this is an interview that you should be listening to. Eric, Carroll, and Sebastian Shaffer from DoFollowio. It's a link building agency that they own and run since 2017. And these are two guys that have an interesting background, one that is related to Niche Pursuits. They both were listening to the Niche Pursuits podcast back in the day. I don't take any credit, but back in 2013, 2014, that's kind of when they got started building niche websites. And I'll let them tell their stories of how their journey led them eventually to going full-time in the business and becoming full-time link building experts with their own agency. And so we dive into what I consider some fairly unique link building strategies. We talk about newsjacking. We talk about doing outreach to journalists and how to craft a pitch that will actually get opened and used. We definitely jump into HARO outreach, HARO link building, and the success rate that you can expect to have there. And it's just a great interview that goes over a lot of the processes and procedures that they use, as well as a lot of tools. We do talk about a lot of tools that they use as well. And specifically, this is all geared for affiliate websites. That's really who their core audience is for their agency. We talk about some of the success stories that they've had as well. And so if you want to check out their agency and what they do and maybe even use them to help you build some of the links for your site, you can go to nichepursuits.com/dofollow. Again, that's nichepursuits.com/dofollow. And overall, even if you're not interested in using them as an agency, I really do think that if you listen to this interview, you're going to walk away with one or two link building ideas that you can use on your site that hopefully will help it rank better and just overall grow the traffic to your site. So here's Eric and Sebastian. Hey, Eric and Sebastian, welcome to the Niche Pursuits podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah, it is good to have both of you here on the podcast. I think it's important that we kind of give a little bit of introductions here and kind of give a little bit of background of, kind of the story and the connection with Niche Pursuits and now how you're coming back on the podcast here. And particularly with you, Eric, at least I know some of your story. If people recognize the last name, Eric Carroll, they may remember somebody else named Perrin Carroll. And so Eric, what's the connection there with Perrin and Niche Pursuits?
Yeah. So Perrin's my brother. If I remember right, you had a contest circa 2013 or so, and the community was going to choose somebody to be a student of yours, and you're going to walk them through, how to create a niche site from scratch. And I didn't believe in it at first, I was like working some corporate job. My brother's like, yeah, I'm in this contest. I'm gonna build a site that makes money online. And I was like, okay, man. And then as I was following and he started making like real money, it was like making like $4+ grand a month. And I was like, okay. So I started paying attention. And then that prompted me to build my own website. And what I really discovered through that process is I really enjoyed the link building part. That was like the part that I didn't really like content that much. I didn't like design or anything like that. I really enjoyed link building. And so that's kind of how I got started with link building. And that turned into an in-house job with a software company. And then that turned into the agency that I own now with Sebastian, DoFollowio.
All right. Yep. So that was Niche Site Project 3 that Perrin, was part of. And you saw what your brother was doing. That kind of led you to SEO, building some sites, doing link building. And of course, we're going to dive into that. the position that you had at the software company, was that a link building position, an SEO position?
Yeah. So I was I was an in-house link builder. I was the head
Okay.
of the link building team. Basically, it was really simple. There's a content team and there's a link building team, and I was the head of the link building team. And it was, I mean, this was back in 2016, before people really got a hold of the types of software that would allow you to just like spam the entire web with requests to link to your site.
Right.
We were doing some really exciting stuff. Yeah. And then when I was done with that, I decided to use those skills um, to start an agency.
Yeah. So Sebastian, let's rope you in here. Give us a little bit of your background and how did you kind of get involved in link building and eventually hooking up with Eric and founding the agency?
Yeah, for me, the whole journey started around the same time, actually. Mostly listening to your podcast, Pat Flynn as well back in the day. I was actually working at a startup in marketing, and I looked into SEO as a way to channel traffic to our product back then. But then I built products on the side and sites on the side, just doing the same thing that you were teaching back then.
Okay.
And
awesome.
I realized, hey, I can make money with this. And at some point it was enough money that I just quit my job and said, okay, this is my path now. And I just kept on building sites for the next 5 to 6 years, I would say. And I met Eric in the process. We started building the agency, got into link building, and the rest is history. But yeah, that's how I started.
Yeah. So it sounds like both of you guys, thank you for listening to the Niche Pursuits podcast, right? That's awesome. I think it's just more of a function of I've been around forever in the industry, right? So it's like, hey, if you were looking at doing something in 2013, 2014, the Niche Pursuits podcast popped up, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't take any credit by any means, but I've just been around for a while. But both of you guys got started sort of building niche sites, getting involved in SEO. Sebastian, it was enough for you to leave your job, right? And kind of do it full time. And Eric, it led you to your full-time job of becoming a link builder, right? But also had some sites that you were building along the way. So both of you guys have a ton of experience hands-on with your own sites. Do you both still have sites right now that you're working on, and how are those going?
I just sold a website that I bought. So I looked at some old like directory mirrors to find a website that's been around for a really long time. It's been around since like year 2000, and it had really great backlinks from like New York Times. Like it had like 4,000 referring domains or something like that. And I was able to buy it for under $10,000, and it was in the computer like review niche. And I bought that, hung on to it for about a year, and then I sold it. It wasn't, I mean, it was getting good traffic, but it wasn't even making money by the time I sold it. I just had too many projects and I wanted to focus on the agency. But that was the last website that I had owned. Yeah. So right now I don't own any.
Yeah, I still do. I still own 2 sites. I haven't touched them in 2 years, but still makes $3-4 grand a month without me doing anything for the last 2 years, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So can't complain. It's working. That's for sure.
So that's probably the beauty. Yeah. That's the beauty of the business, right? Is you hope to be able to get an asset that you don't have to work on. We always use the term passive, right? But it doesn't always work out perfectly, but that's the beauty, right? Is that you can build something and it can generate revenue for years to come.
Yeah.
It's about front loading the work, I would say.
Yeah.
It's not passive really, but if you put in the work in the beginning, it can pay off for a long time. If the Google gods are willing and not crushing your site. But usually my site has been through so many Google algorithm updates. A year later, it's back and still making money. So it's a great business model. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So let's jump into kind of how you guys met and why did you form the agency? How did that all come about? So let's jump into that story.
So we met in the Authority Hacker group, and once they were going to have a company retreat, and a couple of the other guys who we were friends with in the Authority Hacker group were going to like crash their company retreat. Like they're all going to meet in Budapest because that's where Gail and Mark live, or they lived. And I was already in Europe, and Sebastian lives in Europe, of course. And so we decided to go there and just all kind of meet up at the same time. And I guess that kind of brought us a bit closer. And then when I decided to leave my my in-house link building job, I was getting a lot of people reaching out to me just because I had started to build a name for myself as a link builder. And people were coming to me with like, hey, can you build links for my project? And I was just, I think at the same time, Sebastian's site was kind of, was going like up and down as far as traffic and revenue. And so he was kind of looking for ways to supplement as well. And so I said, you want to help me with this because, for his website, his main site, he had built from scratch like almost 1,000 referring domains, and that's without paying for anything, and that's just with just good outreach.
Yeah.
So we both kind of knew that process, and then I said, and we both knew we had the same sort of type of work ethic, and so I just asked him to help me, onboard some of these clients, and we just started from there.
Yeah, and I actually remember some of those early days. It was before you officially started the agency. I remember your name was getting out there. I would hear just a couple of contacts I had. They're like, hey, if you need some links, like Eric does a good job and that sort of thing. So yeah, it sounds like, you kind of went from, your full-time job to kind of starting to build links for other people, and then hooked up with Sebastian and officially formed the agency.
Yeah.
So what year officially was DoFollowio formed?
2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're looking at about 4 years now.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I've been building links, continuously in one form or another since 2013. But yeah, DoFollow as it stands was started in 2017, and it started with just me, basically Sebastian doing like process optimization, or we would both help clients come up with topics that we thought would be good for like linkable assets, and now we're a team of about 12 people.
Awesome. Yeah. So you guys have certainly grown, which is great. We're going to talk a little bit about specific strategies here in just a second. Sure. But actually, I want to kind of look at the end, right, in terms of success that maybe your clients have had. Like, are there any sort of success stories that you can share? Not necessarily specific, here's this URL, but just generally like, hey, we grew one client from X to, triple X or whatever. Any success stories that you guys can share?
I would say the one that stands out the most, and when it comes to like a big traffic trend, there's all sorts of things in play, solid on-page SEO, really good content, we're just one piece of the puzzle. But we took one client, in under a year from 12,000 viewers a month to over 1.7 million.
Holy cow.
And that's in a really, really tough niche, the VPN online security niche.
Wow.
So, I mean, like I said, we only did one piece of the puzzle, sure. But they invested heavily in us, and we built some really, really solid links, and they saw a big traffic increase.
Is that somebody that they own their own product? Are they a product creator, or is it like an affiliate?
It's an affiliate site.
Play. Wow.
It's an affiliate site. Yeah. So, and that's honestly who we work best with. At the end of the day, we like working with people who, we like communicating with the person who makes all the decisions and writes all the checks, instead of working, with a larger company, you work with a junior SEO, then he has a manager, and then that manager, reports to the head of marketing or whatever. We work best with people who are, who own their own product. And we've worked with, I would say, most of the top, affiliate site owners in the VPN niche, for example. We work with most of them. So that's who we prefer to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's also important to say that he really knows his stuff, right? He knows that links are important. We don't argue about the importance of links. He knows that on-page is important, content is important. So it's just a lot of expertise is coming together to make this work. Yeah, and that's why it is working, right? We couldn't probably replicate the same result for someone who's like kind of hesitant and is like, do I really need to pay for links to your agency, right? Do I need to invest in content? Do I need to improve my content? So you have to have the right mindset to make this work.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah, no, that makes absolute sense. But that's a huge success story, right? I mean, I don't know how much they were making, but taking somebody from 12,000 visitors a month to 1.7 million. I mean, you can do the math, and I'm sure it's significant.
Especially in something like the VPN niche where the commissions are super high and they're usually lifetime. I mean, I'm sure he's making, I don't know, 6 figures a month at least.
Yeah, right. So that's awesome. So let's jump into link building strategies. I'd like this to kind of be the meat of what we talk about, right?
Yeah.
It can be, there's a whole range of links that can be built, right? Like a lot of people talk about the really basic, like, hey, guest posts, right? And that sort of thing. Everybody gets the emails. I don't know how many emails a day, people wanting to guest post even on niche pursuits with totally unrelated like stuff, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about something other than that, right? Like
Sure.
what's some maybe more unique link building strategies? I'd like to maybe talk about 2 or 3 sort of unique ideas that work really well that your agency does.
Yeah. I would say being an agency gives us a really unique perspective because we get so many different angles. Being a niche site owner, my first site was in the kayak niche, for example. There's really only so many things you can do with that. But being an agency owner and having people with software products come to you, or keto products come to you, or whatever it may be, and so many different business models, or maybe they sell courses. We've had the chance to try a lot of different things. So in terms of what we employ right now, we have a full scale HARO team. So we do a ton of HARO. Each one of our clients gets a dedicated HARO writer, and we've landed like really some amazing links through that. Just because we try to hire people with experience in that specific niche. So, for one client, within just a month or two, we've gotten them, featured on Forbes and Bloomberg and Aflac.com and TheEconomist.com. I mean, really top tier websites.
So what would you say is sort of the reason for landing those HARO requests? Is it just consistency because they have a dedicated sort of person doing the outreach, or is there a couple of sort of nuances that you found work really well?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is the incentive program we built around our HARO writers. And we're not really sure that it's necessarily the best way to go, but it's the way that we've chosen, and it's worked pretty well so far. So just having a lot of incentive to write pitches and write good pitches, I think has worked really well for us. So we pay our writers by the pitch or by the word, and we give them a bonus for live links. So they have the incentive to A, pitch a lot, and B, throw really good pitches out there.
Yeah.
They also time the pitches really well. So they'll time them, either right when the pitch comes out or right before the deadline. So that it just has more visibility in the inbox of the journalist.
Yeah.
And they adjust the subject line a bit so that it has a higher click-through rate. It has a higher open rate. So they'll make sure that they know it's from HARO and not just some other journalist pitch out there, and also a unique spin on the content that they've produced for the pitch. So I think when we employ all those things, we've had a lot of success, and I know it's difficult. I just talked to somebody the other day who says, they threw a pitch out, or they threw a query out there, and they received like 50 or 60 pitches for that query. So there's a lot of people doing it. I mean, HARO is a big buzzword right now. People are doing it. But I think the little, as you go on and the little tricks you learn, and you learn which sites actually link out and which sites just throw you a mention and stuff like that. As we've gone, we've learned a lot.
Yeah. Also, I would say for the niche site owners out there, it's important to look like a brand, right? It's like the clients we work with, they are brands. So they're legit. They also, if the journalist comes to their site, it will look like something. Right. So the best kayakreviews.com will be very hard to get placement, right? Because it doesn't look legit enough. But if you plan a new site, plan that from the start, build a brand. Even if you start out with like a bunch of reviews, but make it look like a brand. I think that effort is super helpful if you want to get links that others cannot get, especially with HARO, right? So think bigger, even if you want to start small. I think that's super important, especially in the HARO space.
Yeah.
It's important that the person comes to it and sees that you are a real person, with a real LinkedIn account, and that you're an actual authority on this, and not just, some persona that has one of those images from the stock images.
Right.
You don't really exist. That helps a lot when we're pitching as well.
Yeah. For people that are just, sort of doing their first link building, you think that's where they should start, as HARO? Like, that's just you should be doing it.
I think HARO is a good supplementary effort. Yeah, I think everybody should be doing it. I mean, it shouldn't be a primary link building tactic, I don't think. I think it's good for getting heavy hitting backlinks to your site, and also just for general brand awareness. If you're responding, if you get featured on a site, through HARO, usually, it's going to be a decent size media outlet, and the people who are going to be reading that are going to be people who care about that topic. So I think it's a good supplementary effort.
I would even, if I may jump in here, I would even start say, if you don't have a budget for link building and you lack expertise, it might even be great to start with that and just do it on the side, because the links you're going to get there, they will carry a lot of trust. Those are links you will not get anywhere from like normal outreach. So even if you won't get a lot of links, the links you will get will carry trust, will carry authority, and will build a very good foundation for then further link building. It might not be the only place to start. You can do organic outreach, but it requires more effort, more thinking in terms of strategy, while HARO can be really just answering questions, right? You don't have to make it a science. That's kind of what we do. But if you have, I don't know, an hour a day, why not answer a bunch of questions from journalists, and you might get a Forbes link, or I don't know, right? So it might be a good way to start, actually.
So what kind of success rate do you guys see, when you send out 10 pitches or 100 pitches? Like, what's the percentage of actual links received?
Sebastian,
I would say on average, 10% you can expect. 5 to 10% is okay, I would say, and then everything else is optimization, right? So you have to be aware that you will have to pitch a lot, and some of those pitches will not turn into actual links. There might be mentions, there might be no follow links, so that all plays into the overall success rate, right? And HARO is getting more crowded. That means journalists receive a lot more pitches. That means you have to be really on point. You have to be quotable, you have to be on time. So it has certain requirements, right? And the better you get, the more you can tweak your success rate. But 5 to 10%, somewhere in there, I guess I would expect to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that gives people a good idea that, hey, it's a lot of work, right? You got to be consistent. You got to put out, probably 20, 30, pitches before maybe you even see a link, right, coming in. And so, no, that's good for people to kind of know expectations, at least. So anything else with either HARO, or should we move on to maybe another sort of unique link building strategy that you guys employ?
There's some other stuff that we can talk about.
Sure.
For sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that comes to mind that we did with, it was a client within the outdoor sports niche. So we employed like a link, or I guess you would call it newsjacking tactic.
Yep.
So this was a couple of years ago when there was like all the wildfires in California, which is not too far from you, I don't think, right?
No, not too far. Yeah. West Coast.
So there's a lot of wildfires in California. That might still be going on. I really don't know, actually. But we had a client in the outdoor sports niche. And so we worked with them to build a guide around like campfire safety and like how to prevent wildfires. And we were reaching out to all these outlets, these media outlets these were like, real deal news sites that were talking about the wildfires. And we were pitching this. I think we built like an infographic with it, with like, it was long form content of this info guide. And we reached out to them and asked if they would, if they could include this in their report as well. And I think, we ended up building like 60 plus links just to that guide. I mean, that could really work with any, with any news. We built one for a client recently. It was after the election, we built a guide on the privacy records between Trump and Biden. We're promoting that one as well. So, really any big news story that comes out, if you're in the right niche and you can find the right angle, it's a good opportunity to reach out to some of these journalists and try to get some links as well.
Yeah, I really like that. Obviously, anything that's sort of hot news is what journalists are potentially going to be writing about, right?
Yeah.
But how do you pitch a story to a journalist, right? Like, you can take your campfire example if you want, or something else, but how do you pitch it in the right way that it gets attention and they actually might use it?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we're still playing with, and it's always evolving because, journalists, I think I read a report that on average they get like 150 pitches a day or something like that. So it's really difficult. I think that you have to try to find trends in the way that that content is produced on the website. So some sites like the mirror.co.uk, I think is what it is. They like to use a lot of language that revolves around revealed, and they try to, it's like a lot of clicky type stuff, so if you can try to replicate that in your pitch, I think that helps a lot.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I think in the way also, when you pitch to them and you can summarize it really well with like bullet points, and if there are visuals in it, you can use that in the subject line as well. So if there's data visualization, if there's if you have an infographic in there, you can use that in the subject line as well to help get attention. And then, the way you actually pitch it yourself, you can summarize it in a way so because they get so many of these. If they know what they're going to get into, if they know what they're looking at ahead of time without having to click through the link and read all of it, I think that helps as well.
Yeah, I think there are actually two sides, right? One is what Eric talked about, is how do you craft a message? And I think the main two things are authority. Why should they listen to you? And relatedness. So is it related to something that is important to them right now? Right. Yeah. That's one thing. But then I think further you can think about the topic itself. Like, what is the conversation about? What are the most common themes here? And how can I be different? Right. It's because you will get like a very general mainstream opinion there. And that is usually not newsworthy. Why would a journalist talk about that? That's already out there. But if you can be different, have an opposite opinion, or have additional information that no one has thought about, that is usually where you get the entry point, because that's something that for them, readers will want to read, and they want the eyeballs, right? So make it easy for them, and easy for them means bringing people to the site, creating interest.
Yeah. No, those are some good tips for sure. Related to kind of contacting journalists, how do you find contact information? Like, how do you know who to contact? Do you guys have a database of journalists that you've kind of built up over the years? Do you have tools that you use? What are some other tips maybe for people listening?
Sure. If you want probably the easiest option, we use Cision Connect Plus. It's the same company who owns HARO, same company who owns prnewswire.com. They have the largest media journalist database in the world. That's what we used, and you get direct emails of people, of journalists who work at CNN, who work at Fox News, who work at these big media outlets. And they give all the metrics of their engagement, and you have all this information. So that's probably the easiest route, but it's also definitely the most expensive. I think we pay we pay a lot of money for that per year.
You don't even know.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, I think
it's too much.
It's too much. Yeah,
you're right.
But when we were first doing this and we were just kind of bootstrapping ourselves, we were using. We use really simple tools. We use like Mailshake and Hunter.io hunt the and we built a process within that. I kind of forgot what it looks like now because it's been a couple of years, but we built a process within that which prioritizes who to find an email for. So it would try to find the email of the journalist first, and if it couldn't find that, it'd try to find an email of like the editor. I mean, that was an automation that we built, to find the best possible email for the right person to reach out to, and then we would cross-reference that within Never Bounce to make sure that it was a real email, and then we would send the email out.
Yeah.
But you can also do like Twitter, for instance. Most journalists are on Twitter these days, and you can easily find them. If you want to find journalists for the New York Times, just go to their site, look through all the journalists that are listed there, and find them on Twitter, and then you have direct access, right?
Yeah.
It's actually like finding the people and the contact information is the easiest part these days. Everything is very transparent, but coming up with a good message is a lot harder.
And you could also use Find That Lead. It's a Chrome extension on Twitter to get the actual email.
Find That Lead. Okay.
Yeah. Snuff.io is another one for finding emails.
Okay. Yeah, no, those are some good tips for sure. And there's just so many different newspapers and magazines and publications, right? We talk about the CNN and New York Times of the world, right? But there's just thousands of these individual publications, really, that you could be pitching potentially, right?
Yeah.
That are out there. And so newsjacking, I like that idea. Let's see if we can brainstorm just a little bit, or at least walk through kind of a live example. My public niche site project right now is owntheyoure.com. It's a site about sort of backyard gear, backyard landscaping, right? Sort of outdoor, sort of backyard living. So if I were to look at that niche, I'm not thinking that we're going to come up with a great idea right now, but what's sort of the process you would take, right? Like I come to you with owntheyoure.com and let's say, okay, we want to try and take a newsjacking approach. Like what would be kind of the steps you guys would follow at that point?
Yeah. There are some tools that allow you to kind of find topics that are blowing up within like Reddit, for example, to see what's going on in Reddit and to see like what people are talking about, what sorts of posts are getting the most. And I feel like Reddit's always kind of like one step ahead of the media,
It is.
And I feel like it is. And so if you can kind of see like what's trending on Reddit or what's growing on Reddit, what trends are growing on Reddit, I think that's a good way to start brainstorming topics just to see what people are talking about there. And related sub communities. Brian Dean has a tool called Exploding Topics that we've looked at as well. That's it. Basically, it shows you. I don't really understand how it aggregates the information, but it shows you what topics are trending throughout the web as well. I think that's another good way you could look at it. Also, just kind of what's going on. I think COVID within the journalist realm is kind of like played out, but perhaps but since COVID's such a big topic, obviously within the last year, and they say, if people are getting vaccinated if people get vaccinated, then we can have like a July 4th celebration is what they said with all your friends and family. So if you can kind of see, what's trending and then build some sort of guide around that, and stay ahead of the news. I think that's maybe another good. That as well.
Yeah. I mean, it also ties into maybe mental health, right? Like building a garden for yourself where you can relax. So you can build topics around that. You can do expert interviews, which you then can use to pitch it in to other news sources. I think it's about being really creative of how gardening ties into other meta trends in a way. So there's also gardening is more like homegrown food, right? So you can maybe go in that space and look for angles. I don't know. It's really just sitting down. And it's like, it's not just gardening. Gardening,
sure.
It's a tool, right? So it can be a way for mental health. It can be a way to grow your own food. Urban gardening is a major topic. I know someone in the Authority Hacker group has amazing success in that space. So yeah, I think the first step is really thinking about the adjacent shoulder niches in that space or meta trends, and then come up with how can I tap into that conversation in a way that hasn't been talked about before?
Yeah.
I don't know much about gardening. I live in Berlin. There are not that many gardens, to be honest. So I struggle to come up with a good angle.
Right.
But that's I think what I would do, just brainstorm,
That's
write down
perfect.
topics.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good framework though, right? Like that people can take a look at, look at the Reddit trends, the other trends that are happening, in the world that are either specifically related to your niche or yes, these sort of adjacent niches, right? How can you tie that in? I think that's good tips that people can maybe apply. And so if people come to you, do you guys kind of do that entire process yourselves? Like you do the brainstorming, you help the client come up with the content idea that they can publish on their site, and then actually do the pitching to the journalist. You do all of that?
Yeah. So we find the topics ourselves. So we find the topics. Usually we would work with the agency, basically write an overview of what we think it should look like, what the topic should be, and have them create the content just so it's consistent with the voice, of the website. For the last one we did, we created it just because there was a lot of extra stuff we wanted to do with it. So in the Biden versus Trump privacy example, we surveyed 500 Democrats and 500 Republicans. So we wanted to create that survey.
Mm-hmm.
We employed designers to make the actual designs of the infographic and the subsections, and we also employed a researcher to really do a deep dive into the privacy background. So just because there was so much stuff that was out of the wheelhouse of the site owner themselves, we took that one over. But yeah, normally we would basically just go out and try to find topics that we think would work well and work with them to create it.
Yeah, that's great. Let's jump into maybe another strategy, something else, again, for somebody that's building an affiliate site, right? Like, what's some other link building strategy they could look to that's maybe a little bit different than, like I said, guest posting?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said, we worked with a lot of different types of websites. And so it's given us kind of a unique perspective on what people are wanting to link out to. But, I think that .edu links are kind of like the coveted links to get, within the SEO space.
Mm-hmm.
So on two separate occasions, we've employed this tactic, but the first one was a career resume building website. And they said they wanted us to go after .edu websites. So basically, we went to all the competitors and just typed in .edu into the search bar within Ahrefs backlink profile, backlink analysis. And it showed us that there was a trend. So basically, that they were getting on resource pages within the jobs and career section of postgraduate jobs and career section on a bunch of .edu websites. So we created a pitch to basically try to get their site added as well, which is kind of a play on resource pages, really. So we were able to do that, and that we're still running that campaign, and we've still been building links that way. Another one was for another client. These people were in the keto space.
Mm-hmm.
There were a bunch of their competitors were getting links on university discount pages. So if you're a student at this university, you can get a discount at this outlet, and it's all aggregated on one page. So it's this student discount page. And we worked with that client to create a discount code for people for students at this university. And then we pitched to them. We said, hey, you have this student discount page. We create a discount code for your students. And then they would add us to that page. It's kind of like you still have to be able to allow them to use that discount. And that was for an FBA business, but they had a website as well that we were building to.
No, that's great couple of ideas there.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing though. I know we talk a lot about new tactics, it's more about the novelty part. I get that, but it's so important to do the boring things well. It's like there's always a shiny object, a new link building tactic, but it just, if you do the basics really well and you get really good at this, build processes that are repeatable and scalable, that already is the game changer. You don't need all these things. It's just doing high quality outreach. If you can do that, that will get you very far. So I know it's a bit boring to say that, but I strongly believe in boring, repetitive things that are executed well, because long term that will be the foundation you build the business on. And then the shiny objects, the cool new tactics, that adds flavor to everything, and you might get really good spikes of links, but they're harder to plan and harder to keep consistent. So I'm always a bit worried about just doing that, right? Just as a word of caution.
I think that, at the end of the day, it's really just about putting the right content in front of the right audience, and we've gone full circle. When I first started building links, it was, you find a really relevant prospect and you write a really personal, really well crafted, personalized email to this person, and you got a link. And that was just you would just keep doing that over and over again. And then it kind of grew into, mass automation, where you would just upload a list of a CSV of 2,000 people and just blast them all at the same time. And we've really kind of come full circle when it comes to, content marketing, and that's creating really good prospects, personalizing the emails, either manually or through, we've used Pitchbox and we've used Respana.com. And those are two really good ones that allow you to personalize at scale. And really just putting, the right piece of content in front of the right person and crafting a good email to go along with it. That's really what it's all about. These other stuff, they're cool, and we've gotten some really good links that way. But like Sebastian said, at the end of the day, it's really just about sticking to the basics, creating really good content, and making sure you create a good prospect list and put it in front of them.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about some of those maybe basic processes that you follow, right? I mean, you've got a team now of 12 people, right? So I'm sure you've got really well-defined standard operating procedures. What's some of the sort of basic processes that you guys follow, so your employees can fulfill a lot of the work?
Yeah. So we do a lot of competitor analysis. So when we first bring on a client, we look at their competitors and we see how they're getting links. We just try to get the same links. So whether that's a resource page or, sometimes we pay for links as well, if that's what the client wants. And if they want links to, because the clients are able to determine which page we build links to. We like to be able to build links to any page on the site just because it gives us more opportunity. But, people want links to the money pages, right? They want links to the commercial pages. And people don't usually want to link to some, best X for Z or X for Y product page, So we use paid links to get links to those pages, which the clients, they know that and they're okay with that. And we have a good vetting process for that. But a lot of that comes down to just competitor analysis. There are going to be people who are ranking for those types of keywords. And, if you go look at some of the bigger pages, you can see that sometimes they'll have 300-400 referring domains pointing to those if it's a big site, So we like to go and take a look at who's linking to these people and why are they linking to them. Are they linking to them because they're paying them to, or linking to them because, they wrote a unique guest post for them? Are they linking to them, because maybe it's a vendor and they have a review section where they talk about people who reviewed their products. So we do a lot of that's the first thing we really do when we bring on a new client, is just look at who's linking to the pages that they want to rank for and why they're linking to them. And then we just go from there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also like what makes us very efficient is like optimizing things like quality assurance, making sure we build really good prospecting lists, making sure we're not emailing the same people, right? We have a lot of automation built around blacklisting and making sure we really send to unique people. We have a lot of automation built around personalization. And so we really make sure that these details work. And that's really not new things. But like Eric said, we're going to do these things at scale for every new client. Competitor research, how can we automate that? And our goal really is we automate every aspect that can be automated. And then for the more manual tasks, we have SOPs clearly defined. This is the first step, that's the next step. And everyone knows at every point what they need to do. Right? And that also makes it very easy for us to hire new people, to get a VA for something, because it's really just, here's the process, now go run with it. I think that makes us very scalable as well, and makes the business very easy to run for us.
Yeah, I think that's super important to be able to have those processes right in place. That's really the only way you can scale at really anything, but specifically for link building. How do you know if you are getting a valuable link, or you're targeting a site that's going to give you a valuable link? I know it's kind of a basic question, but maybe even specifically for like paid links, since you brought that up, right? Like you might see a site and they're like, oh yeah, we'll get you a link for $50 or $100 or whatever. And the site maybe is getting traffic in Ahrefs, but if you know what you're looking for, you start to dig and you're like, this maybe is not a great neighborhood or something. Like what are the telltale signs of like, we don't want a link from this site, even if we can get one?
Yeah. I mean, we have specific metrics that we look at, specific things that we look at, and that's really easy for the core team of link builders to spot. So stuff like the traffic source, where's their traffic coming from? You know, they might have 2,000 hits a month or whatever, but where's it coming from? You know, is it coming from the target audience of the client? If not, then we don't build a link there. Also, like, what are they ranking for? Or if they're, you know, there's a lot of ways to kind of game, I think, the Ahrefs estimation. I say Ahrefs because that's the main tool that we use to analyze links. There's a lot of ways to like game that. So, you know, you can write posts on, you know, celebrities' net worth or something like that. And even if it's like a tech site, they'll still write content on that, just because, you know, some random celebrity's net worth is really easy to rank for, and they can get a traffic spike that way. So we look at what they're ranking for, and is what they're ranking for relevant to the site and our client side as well. Some of the stuff we also look for, like ratios. So if they have, you know, X amount of inbound links and a ton of outbound links, we're like, okay, that's probably, you know, like they're probably just exist to sell a bunch of links.
Right.
We also look at who they're linking out to and why they're linking out to them. So, you know, if we find pages on the site that might be good for our clients, we also see who else is being linked to in that page and why they're being linked to. Some things are a bit more difficult to spot if you're not like if somebody who's like trained and who's just looked at thousands of websites, is like just the general layout and design of the site and like the logo, and maybe like if they have an SSL script and stuff like that. You know, there's some little things that we look at to make sure that, you know, see is this a site that people really care about? You know, do the owners really care about the content, or is this exist to sell links? Is the main business model of this website selling links?
Right.
Or is it, you know, maybe a software site that also has a blog, and, you know, they'll sell links to like a very select amount of people if it really lines up with their editorial process. You know, we really just look at why the site exists, and what, you know, is the main business model of the site selling links, or did they actually trying to cultivate an audience here that cares about the topic that they're writing about?
Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And a lot of that just comes with experience, I think, like you said. I mean, there's certain things that you can look at, but other things, it's just, it's almost more an art in a way to kind of be able to look at a site and go like, this is not legit or whatever, right? Like so do you find that in training employees and trying to have like a standard operating procedure that, yes, you can document like, hey, don't try to get links from this, but there's other stuff that's a little more fuzzy that takes somebody just more experienced to look at?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we have we have a buddy system. So the more experienced employees will train new employees. In the beginning, it was mostly Eric training everyone, because Eric is like half a second looking at a site is like PBN. Don't even need to look at it further, right? It's like you develop that new sense to feel, okay, this is really not good. What we call a smell test, right? So some things are not just in the hard metrics. Those are easy to look at, easy to filter, but you have to go beyond that. And yes, exactly, because it's hard to document and write an SOP for that. We have the buddy system, so the more experienced people can train the new ones. But that's the only way really to build up that expertise.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So for listeners that are out there that are thinking, hey, I want to go out, I want to start building my own links. How difficult would it be for an individual to kind of replicate what you guys do as an agency? Like, is it feasible for an individual website builder out there to go, I can do what DoFollowio does on my own. It's just a lot more work.
Yeah, I mean, and that's, I guess, what it all boils down to is, that's why people come to us, is because it's a ton of work. You get told no all the time, and that's demoralizing. So people come to us because they just don't want to worry about it. They just want us to take it over. We have, for the amount that they pay per month, they get a full team of people, full division of a company, essentially. Their entire job is just to build links. You can do it yourself. Absolutely. And we've all done it, right? Or I guess us three have done it. And that's, going out and respond to the HARO pitches over and over again. And building pieces of content, doing large scale content marketing campaigns. It's very doable. Yeah. It's just, it's a lot of work, takes a lot of time, takes a lot of patience, and a lot of resources. Cause honestly, most people ask for money these days when you're reaching out and asking for a link,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the main difference here is it is already a lot of work to build links for your own site. To do it as an agency, to do it for multiple clients, it's not just you multiply it, it's more exponential, the amount of work that comes in, because you have to think about a lot more things. So yes, everyone can do it on their own, but doing it sustainably, long-term, for multiple clients, 10, 20, 30, 100 clients, very different game. Yeah. So I think that's just something to be aware of. It doesn't scale linear, it just gets exponentially more harder.
Right. Yeah. Right. Not to mention, you've now got more employees that you got to worry about, right? It's no longer, you're not just doing link building, you're managing a business, right? So it becomes more difficult even as you scale. So is there anything that we didn't really talk about that you'd like to bring up in terms of either SEO strategies or link building strategies, or just either, even motivational tip or any sort of closing thoughts in terms of things that maybe we didn't bring up that we should have?
No, I think in terms of motivational aspects, it's building your own site is a great project, not just to make some money, but you will learn a lot of things. Right? We started building sites. We never thought we would build our own agency, which is now the thing that works really, really well for us. But the journey started with building our own niche sites and learning in the process. And then thinking bigger and bigger. The first site that I built was like a random site about iron deficiency, right? It's like no branding, nothing. It's just, I see the keyword, okay, this works, all right. But then you will learn about branding, you will learn about scalability of technology, you will learn about outsourcing and writing SOPs. And that whole journey it's not just a make money online journey. It's I learn how to run a business journey step by step while making money, which is really amazing. So I can only recommend sticking through the journey. And there are a lot of painful, especially in the beginning, painful month of seeing 1-2 visitors on your site, and you will have doubts about making enough ad revenue to pay for coffee. Mm-hmm. That's part of the game. I think we all have been there, but if you stick to it and stick with it and you stay consistent, that can turn into a life-changing business, which is amazing. I think everyone should at least give it a try and don't give up. At least give it a year or two to make this work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll piggyback off of that as well. I mean, similar story for me in terms of you just have to jump in and start doing the work, right? If you want to build a site, just jump in, and it doesn't mean that that's what you're going to be doing forever, right? Like it led to starting an agency for you guys. And if I wasn't, in building websites, I never would have started, different software tools, right? I sort of was scratching my own itch with Longtail Pro and now Link Whisper, right? Now I'm running software businesses that really could never have come about if I didn't know the intricacies of building websites and the importance of keyword research or internal links or that sort of thing, right? Like it can be a launching pad to so many other areas as well. So.
Yeah, and learning how to attract an audience is key these days. It's building things gets easier and easier, but attracting an audience that is loyal, that is getting harder and harder because the noise is increasing. So if you can master that skill, that's a superpower, whatever you do later, right? That's
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that as well. So for people that want to check out, your agency, DoFollow, maybe you can just give a brief summary of like what's some of the either packages or services that you offer there that they can look into.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple. We offer one package, one service.
Makes it easy.
So basically we are performance-based link building. So we only pay for the links that we build. We charge by the link, but we do ask you come in with a $3,000 a month budget. Just because that helps us kind of spread our legs and try different tactics and really try to get the best links possible for you. And that's really, I mean, that's the only package we have. We take on, we're actually pretty particular about clients that we take on, but once we take you on, we have a fully customized approach to get you links. Yeah. And I mean, I guess the good thing about us is because we use so many different tactics, there are no shortage of, link brokers out there. There's no shortage of, people on the other side, kind of PR companies out there. There are very few people who are able to, are boutique enough that you can able to take multiple different approaches to a site. And that's what kind of that's what kind of separates us from others.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I think we have been on the other side, right? We are site owners still. So everything is designed to make it easy. We don't have any lock-in. We don't have retainers because we don't believe in retainers. Usually that benefits the agency and not the site owner. So you pay at the end of the month after we delivered the work, and there's no lock-in. So you stay with us because you like our work. And that's all our clients. Average is probably a year lifetime. So everyone stays even though they don't have to. And I think that speaks for itself. That's kind of how we approach it.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So if people want to check out what you guys are doing and learn more about your service, they can go to dofollow.io. Is there any other place that you'd like to send people if you're trying to build your Twitter following or anything like that? And anywhere else that people should follow along with what you guys are doing?
We also own linkology.io, which is a heritage platform. And that's still in its beta stage, but people can follow us there as well. Yep.
So we're getting into software as well. We're following in your footsteps.
We're following in your footsteps.
I'm a big fan of software. So kudos for taking that step.
Yeah, definitely check out Linkology if you want to do HARO. Makes it a lot easier. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Shaffer. That's pretty much it. Yeah, you can put it in the show notes. Easier.
Yeah. I'll put it.
German names are always complicated.
Yep, we'll put that in the show notes as well as linkology.io. Sounds like an interesting tool as well. So, but overall, guys, thanks for coming on the Niche Pursuits podcast. It's great catching up. It's great hearing your story. And of course, the great link building tactics that you've shared as well. So thanks again for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you, Spencer.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.